I want to start with a product almost every household in America trusts without thinking twice. Toilet paper, wrapped in pastel packaging, promising comfort, softness, and safety. I used to believe that promise, until I started asking one uncomfortable question: what does soft actually cost? I spent weeks reading environmental reports, consumer investigations, and recall notices. I compared labels, traced supply chains, and yes, I even tested these rolls myself, touching them, tearing them, soaking them in water, and paying attention to what my skin felt like afterward. What I found wasn't panic-worthy, but it was deeply unsettling. Today, I'm starting with the brands most Americans buy without hesitation. And I'm starting immediately with brand number one. Number 1, Charmin Ultra Soft. Charmin is everywhere. Walmart, Costco, Amazon, millions of rolls moving every week. It's owned by Procter & Gamble, a company most Americans instinctively trust. I bought a standard 24-roll pack and started where most people never do: the fine print, the fiber source, the feel after repeated use. Charmin Ultra Soft is made with 100% virgin pulp, not mostly, not blended, 0% recycled fiber. That matters because, according to analyses cited by the Natural Resources Defense Council, much of that pulp is linked to Canada's boreal forest, a region that stores roughly 30 to 40% of the world's forest carbon. Every ton logged releases carbon that had been locked away for centuries. Now let's talk about exposure. The average American uses toilet paper 6 to 7 times a day. That's over 2,000 uses a year per person, and in a household of 4, you're looking at 8,000 plus skin contacts annually with the same chemically treated surface. Charmin's softness comes from chemical softeners and wet-strength resins, including formaldehyde-based compounds. The company does not disclose concentrations. Dermatologists consistently warn that repeated contact with treated, fragranced, ultra-soft papers increases the risk of contact dermatitis, dryness, and micro-irritation, especially in sensitive areas. I felt it myself after several days. Dryness first, then a faint sting. Nothing dramatic, just persistent enough to notice. Charmin doesn't violate a regulation on the shelf, but it violates transparency. The numbers tell a different story. 100% virgin pulp, 0% recycled content, thousands of chemical contacts a year, and a supply chain tied to one of the planet's most important carbon sinks. My conclusion was unavoidable. This isn't harmless comfort. It's comfort engineered at a cost you're never shown. Number 2, Quilted Northern Ultra Plush. Quilted Northern sells the idea of affordable luxury. Ultra Plush means 3-ply thickness, bright white sheets, and that cushioned feel people associate with quality. I counted it. 3 layers. I soaked a strip in water and timed it. After 60 seconds, it was still largely intact, exactly what plumbers warn against in older systems. Like Charmin, this brand relies primarily on virgin wood pulp, not recycled fiber. Here's where the numbers get uncomfortable. In 2022, Quilted Northern's manufacturer faced a class action lawsuit alleging misleading, eco-friendly marketing while continuing to source from non-sustainable forests. That year matters. This wasn't ancient history. It was recent enough that the packaging on shelves today was designed after consumers had already raised concerns. The brand still does not clearly disclose recycled content percentages. When disclosure is missing, the effective number is simple: 0% transparency. The softness itself comes from synthetic binders, dyes, and fragrance compounds. Dermatology literature repeatedly shows that dyed and scented paper products are among the most common triggers for irritation in intimate skin areas. I noticed the scent the moment I opened the package light, but present. Scent means additives. Additives mean residue. Multiply that by 2,000 uses a year, and even mild irritation becomes a pattern, not an accident. Quilted Northern isn't illegal, but it crosses a line of trust. Luxury is marketed. Impact is hidden. When a product used thousands of times a year depends on virgin forests, chemical binders, and vague environmental language, the risk isn't hypothetical. It's cumulative. And that's the pattern starting to emerge. Number 3, Angel Soft. Angel Soft sounds gentle. The name alone suggests safety, family use, something you wouldn't have to question. Heavily stocked in Walmart and grocery chains, and owned by Georgia-Pacific, one of the largest paper producers in North America. I picked up a pack, unwrapped it, and the first thing I noticed wasn't softness. It was lint. Fine fibers clinging to my fingers before I even used it. Angel Soft is made almost entirely from virgin wood pulp, not recycled material. Environmental groups, including the Natural Resources Defense Council, have repeatedly criticized Georgia Pacific for sourcing from old-growth and boreal forest regions. These forests aren't just trees. They are long-term carbon storage systems that take hundreds of years to regenerate. Angel Soft provides 0% recycled content disclosure, which in practical terms means consumers have no way to verify sustainability claims. The quality concerns aren't just environmental. In 2018, Consumer Reports flagged Angel Soft for inconsistent sheet integrity and excessive lint shedding. Lint isn't just messy. Loose fibers can trap moisture and bacteria, especially in warm, sensitive areas. Angel Soft also uses formaldehyde-based binding agents to hold its thin structure together. Again, no concentration levels are disclosed. Let's put that into perspective. The average user wipes 2 to 3 times per bathroom visit. Multiply that by 2,000 bathroom visits per year, and you're looking at 4,000 to 6,000 direct contacts annually with a paper known to shed fibers and contain chemical binders. For people with eczema, sensitive skin, or disrupted pH balance, dermatologists warn that repeated exposure like this can lead to chronic irritation, redness, and burning sensations. Angel Soft isn't catastrophic. That's the problem. It sits in that gray zone where nothing feels wrong enough to stop using it. But when a product touches your body thousands of times a year, probably fine isn't good enough. My conclusion was clear. Angel Soft promises comfort, but delivers inconsistency on your skin and on the planet. Number 4. Cottonelle Ultra Clean. Cottonelle built its reputation on one word: clean. Rippled texture, just showered feeling. It's marketed as a hygiene upgrade, not just toilet paper, but hygiene claims demand evidence. And Cottonelle has one number it can't escape: 2020, Canada, and the Caribbean due to potential bacterial contamination. Specifically, concerns centered around Pluralibacter gergoviae, a pathogen known to cause infections in people with weakened immune systems. Toilet paper isn't supposed to carry bacteria. That recall shattered a basic assumption of safety. Even beyond the recall, there are structural issues. Cottonelle's textured, thicker sheets are designed to feel cleaner, but plumbers consistently report that these papers break down more slowly than standard tissue. In older homes and septic systems, slow disintegration increases the risk of clogs and backups. I tested it myself. After 90 seconds in water, the sheet was still largely intact. Cottonelle also uses synthetic fragrances and embossing agents to maintain that fresh feel. Dermatology experts repeatedly caution that fragranced hygiene products can disrupt the natural skin microbiome. When that microbiome is disturbed, the risk of irritation, itching, and secondary infections increases. Again, think about frequency. Thousands of uses per year on already sensitive skin. Cottonelle wasn't reckless, but it wasn't transparent either. A brand built entirely on the idea of cleanliness once shipped contaminated products into bathrooms across multiple countries. That matters. My conclusion here wasn't emotional, it was practical. If a product fails at its core promise, hygiene, it doesn't deserve blind trust. And as I kept digging, one thing became impossible to ignore. These issues aren't isolated, they form a pattern. Number 5. Scott 1000. Scott 1000 is marketed as no-nonsense value, one ply, long roll, cheap per sheet. It's the brand people buy when they want to save money and avoid anything fancy. I bought a pack at a local grocery store and immediately understood the trade-off. The paper felt thin, almost brittle. That's not an accident. Scott 1000 is made from virgin pulp that's chemically processed to maximize sheet count, not comfort. Here's where the numbers matter. Scott's pulp is bleached using chlorine dioxide, a process known to generate dioxins as a byproduct. Environmental Protection Agency classifies dioxins as probable human carcinogens, noting that even trace-level releases can harm aquatic ecosystems. You don't see dioxins on the label, but they exist upstream, in the water and air where the paper is made. Because Scott 1000 is single-ply, most users instinctively double or triple the sheets. That means instead of one wipe, people often use 2 to 3 layers at a time. Over a year, that turns a budget product into 4,000 to 6,000 wipes per person, increasing friction and mechanical irritation. Dermatologists frequently note that repeated friction, not just chemicals, can lead to microabrasions, dryness, and discomfort, especially with daily use. I tested Scott 1000 by soaking it in water. After 20 seconds, it began to fall apart aggressively, creating paper fragments rather than dissolving cleanly. That breakdown may be septic safe, but on skin, the rough texture is unforgiving. Scott doesn't hide what it is, but it still violates a key expectation that saving money shouldn't mean harming your body or contributing to toxic byproducts in waterways. Cheap doesn't always mean clean. Sometimes it just means corners were cut where you can't see them. Number 6. Kirkland Signature toilet paper. Kirkland Signature is the definition of bulk trust. Costco sells it as a smart, family-friendly choice. Huge packs, thick rolls, fewer trips to the store. I picked up a pack weighing over 20 pounds designed to last weeks in an average household. But bulk volume magnifies impact. When something is used this often, small design choices scale fast. According to a 2023 report cited by the Natural Resources Defense Council, Kirkland toilet paper relies heavily on virgin pulp sourced from Canada's boreal forest, a region critical to wildlife such as woodland caribou and essential for long-term carbon storage. These forests take decades to centuries to regenerate. Kirkland does not publish a recycled content percentage. When disclosure is missing, consumers are left guessing, and guessing isn't transparency. Now the physical behavior. Kirkland's sheets are densely wound and heavily compressed to maintain thickness. I ran a simple test at home. I dropped a single sheet into a bowl of water and timed it. After 90 seconds, the sheet was still holding together. Plumbers routinely warn that tissue taking longer than 30 to 45 seconds to break apart increases the risk of clogs, especially in older pipes and septic systems. From a skin perspective, thickness doesn't always mean gentler. Kirkland uses softeners, bleaching agents, and wet-strength resins to maintain durability. Consumer feedback cited in multiple forums describes itching and flare-ups after prolonged use, particularly among people with sensitive skin. Again, think in scale. A family of 4 can easily log 8,000 to 10,000 uses per year with the same product. Minor irritation becomes cumulative exposure. Kirkland isn't marketed as luxury, it's marketed as smart value. But when that value depends on virgin forest, heavy processing, and slow disintegration, the equation changes. Buying in bulk doesn't make a product safer, it just means you're committing to it longer. And once I saw that pattern, I couldn't ignore where this investigation was leading next. Number 7. Amazon Basics toilet paper. Amazon Basics is built on one powerful idea: simple, affordable, reliable. Millions of Americans subscribe to it without ever touching a store shelf. I ordered a pack the same way most people do, one click, next day delivery. When it arrived, the packaging told me almost nothing. No clear statement of recycled content. No disclosure of virgin versus recycled pulp. That absence is the first number that matters. Zero transparency. Amazon publishes extensive sustainability reports, but paper products are conveniently excluded from detailed fiber sourcing data. In 2022, a class action lawsuit was filed alleging that Amazon Basics bath tissue made misleading eco-friendly claims without substantiating them. Again, this isn't ancient history. It's recent enough that current buyers are still affected. Then came the user data. In 2023, hundreds of verified reviews described the same problems: thin sheets, excessive dust, and fiber shedding. Dust isn't just annoying. Fine paper particles can irritate skin and mucous membranes, especially in enclosed bathrooms. I rubbed a dry sheet between my fingers and watched residue collect on my skin. That residue doesn't disappear when wet. It transfers. Usage math matters here too. Thin paper means more sheets. If the average person already wipes 2 to 3 times per visit, a thinner sheet pushes that number higher. Over 2,000 bathroom visits per year, that's thousands of extra friction events. Dermatologists consistently note that repeated low-grade irritation is a common cause of chronic discomfort, even when no single exposure seems severe. Amazon Basics isn't openly dangerous. That's what makes it risky. It hides behind scale. When a product is used by millions of households, even small design flaws affect a massive population. My conclusion was straightforward. If a brand won't tell you where its fibers come from or what's in them, it's asking for trust it hasn't earned. Number 8. Up and Up toilet paper. Up and Up is Target's house brand, positioned as a smarter alternative to big names. It's cleanly designed, widely available, and priced to move. I bought a pack in-store and immediately noticed how bright white the sheets were. That brightness isn't natural. It's achieved through optical brightening agents, or OBAs, chemicals that reflect blue light to make paper appear cleaner than it is. Here's the problem. OBAs don't rinse away completely. They stay in the fiber. Multiple consumer advocacy blogs and parent groups have reported mild allergic reactions, itching, and redness after switching to this brand. These aren't clinical trials, but patterns matter when they repeat across hundreds of accounts. And Up and Up doesn't publish OBA usage levels, recycled percentages, or detailed sourcing data. Plumbers have raised another red flag. In community forums and neighborhood maintenance threads, Up and Up is frequently mentioned as a contributor to slow-draining toilets, particularly in homes built before the 1990s. After 60 seconds in water, the sheet was still holding together more than expected for a product labeled septic safe. Target's transparency is better than some competitors, but still incomplete. When a product is used thousands of times a year, missing information becomes a risk factor. Consumers aren't asking for perfection, they're asking for clarity. Affordable doesn't mean gentle, and clean branding often hides the messiest details. Once you see that, the question changes. It's no longer, what should I avoid? It becomes, how do I choose better? By the time I reached this point in the investigation, the pattern was no longer subtle. 8 brands, 8 different marketing stories. And yet the same underlying issues kept repeating: virgin pulp, chemical softeners, slow breakdown, vague disclosures, and trust built more on habit than on evidence. None of this means you should panic. It means you should pause. Awareness is not fear. It's the beginning of control. So how do you choose better without falling for another layer of green branding? The first rule I learned is simple. Look for numbers, not adjectives. Words like soft, pure, clean, gentle mean nothing on their own. What matters is disclosure. Recycled content should be listed as a percentage. If a brand doesn't tell you whether it's 80% recycled or 0%, that silence is the answer. Transparency always shows up in numbers. Second, pay attention to how paper behaves in water, not just in your hand. A genuinely flush-friendly tissue begins to break apart within 30 to 45 seconds. Anything that stays intact past a minute is engineered for strength, not disappearance. Strength might feel reassuring, but in plumbing systems and on skin, it often creates more problems than it solves. Slow breakdown leads to clogs. Excessive strength leads to friction. Neither belongs in something you use thousands of times a year. Third, less processing usually means fewer surprises. Unbleached or chlorine-free papers tend to contain fewer residues. Fragrance-free almost always beats scented. Optical brighteners make paper look clean, not be clean. If your tissue glows unnaturally white, ask why. Chemicals don't vanish just because you can't see them. Fourth, consider scale. The average adult uses toilet paper over 2,000 times a year. In a family of 4, that's 8,000 to 10,000 skin contacts annually with the same product. Even mild irritation repeated that often becomes meaningful. Healing doesn't always come from medicine. Sometimes it comes from removing a quiet irritant you never thought to question. There are better options. Brands that use bamboo fibers, which grow in 3 to 5 years instead of decades. Brands that rely on 100% recycled paper, reducing the need to cut new trees at all. Brands that publish certifications, lab testing, and sourcing information without being asked. They're not always the cheapest on the shelf, but they often cost less in the long run. Less irritation, fewer plumbing issues, and a smaller environmental footprint. I'm not here to tell you what to buy. I'm here to show you how to think differently. When you replace blind trust with informed choice, everyday products stop being invisible risks and start becoming conscious decisions. That's not about perfection. It's about balance. If this investigation helped you see something familiar in a new way, support the work. Like the video. And stay with me, because the most overlooked products are often the ones that deserve the closest look. Awareness is the first step. Choosing better is the next.